All right, we are rolling now. Counting us down. 3, 2.
You're listening to Missing Out with Lex Michael and Tauri J. Let's start the show.
Hey guys, welcome back to Missing Out. I'm Tauri J.
I'm Lex Michael.
If this is your first time listening, what we do here is we introduce each other to different media, whether it be movies, music, television, spoken word, books, experiences, things that have built us up as people. We hope that in sharing them, they build you up. We are the retrospective, that's introspective.
I like it. I like you got a little sing-songy with it. You moved your hands.
Heck yeah.
It's that kind of dynamism that we show up for here on Missing Out. I'm gonna say my name again because when I said Lex Michael, it was very low energy. I was like Lex Michael.
Yeah.
Say it again. Ready? I'm Lex Michael. There we go. Now I know I'm here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, everyone was like, "Where's Lex Michael?
Yeah,
we can't hear
so
him."
sad?
Yeah, I don't get it. What's the deal?
What happened?
What's the deal
Did
with
he
Lex
not?
Michael?
Did he not like the pilot at all? Is that why he feels sad?
Yep, that's what it was. So this week we are going to be covering the 2008 Fox series Fringe. It was created by J.J. Abrams and Kurtzman and Orsi. You might know all of those names from the new Star Trek. Kurtzman and Orsi also worked on The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was a thing.
The Magic Blood is a thing of theirs. Star Trek Into Darkness and Amazing Spider-Man 2 both feature Magic Blood as a significant plot point.
Yeah,
So that's
they
interesting.
love Magic Blood.
They did. Didn't they do a couple of Transformers also?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
I think some of the later Transformers. All right. But yeah, so also a writer on the show whom you may know now, Andrew Kreisberg, who made all the CW verse stuff
With Berlanti, yeah.
Yep. So a lot of good stuff came from this series. It's starring Anna Torv, Joshua Jackson, John Noble. It also has Kurt Acevedo, who I really like.
I like Kirk Acevedo a lot. Lance Reddick, who I'm a very big fan of.
Yeah. He also, I don't remember if it is as his character in Fringe, but he also made an appearance in Lost. There is a...
Lance Reddick did?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a short
I've never seen
period.
Lost, by the way.
I haven't seen it either. Like, I've seen episodes because my old roommate used to watch it, and so I was there through the latter seasons. So in some of the latter seasons, spoiler for Lost.
All right.
We start going into the future.
This sounds vaguely familiar to me.
Yeah, so it's like a future in which some of the people got off the island, and everyone keeps being like, "We gotta go back. Everyone's waiting for us." Blah. And so in one of the episodes that takes place in the future, Lance Reddick shows up to talk to Jack, and you don't know who he is. He's just like, I'm a secret agent, and I'm here to talk to you. So it's interesting. There's a slight implication that they share a universe, because in Fringe there's also the Oceanic Airlines, which if you haven't seen Lost, is the airline that crashes,
Right.
causing everyone to become lost. Yes.
One day I might sit down and actually watch Lost, but I feel like for me it must be like what Game of Thrones is for a lot of people who never watched Game of Thrones, right? Which is, okay, maybe I should watch it because it's this massive cultural thing that's happening right now.
Right.
But now we're far enough in, well, I might as well wait for the show to wrap up, and then I'll start from the oh my God, everybody's so mad. All right, well, why would I put myself through that? But I feel like I might one day, I don't have that much time, but I feel like one day I may go back and check Lost out finally.
I mean, I don't, since I haven't watched it, I can't really pass much judgment.
Right.
What I know about it is that it had that very signature J.J. Abrams mystery box feel to it. Also, all the same people who worked on Lost worked on this show. Kurtzman, Orsi, J.J. Abrams, all those people essentially came to Fringe from Lost. That's how they all knew each other, except for Andrew Kreisberg, who met them at a con or whatever. But essentially, it very much was the essence of mystery box television, where they kind of laid seeds for things and never really focused on where it was going to go.
Right.
Which is a lesson that they learned when going into Fringe. And so they instead decided to map out where everything was going to be going from the beginning to the season finale, but left it malleable enough to where they could drop something in early seasons and pay it off later, or they could essentially leave it out and still have enough story to get them where they need to go.
Got it.
And so I really like that aspect that, like, one, you find that they took a note and they allowed it to create a show that, in addition to being a very character-driven show, like, it does very much try to pay off a lot of the things that it sets up. And they were talking about how even things in the first season, they just started planting a bunch of Easter eggs so that if they wanted to at some other point, they could pay it off if needed, which I found to be really interesting.
Yeah.
So I made you watch the pilot episode.
You did.
Which is a 2-hour pilot, which introduces you to all of the main characters. You are introduced to Olivia Dunham, who is our main POV character. You are introduced to Peter Bishop, who is played by Joshua Jackson.
Pacey.
What is that from? Is
It's to Dawson.
okay.
It's the Creek.
Definitely never watched that.
The Creek. I'm very aware of it. I know most of the references, and I've definitely seen some swaths of Dawson's Creek, but not in quite some time. No, that's false. I saw several episodes relatively recently.
Okay, why?
I don't know, man. The Majesty of Vanderbeek.
Okay.
That's not why. I don't have an explanation.
I mostly know him from the Mighty Ducks series.
Oh yeah.
That's my Joshua Jackson, and now Fringe is also my Joshua Jackson touchstone.
I saw somewhere that the Abrams connection for him was that he had auditioned for Kirk in Star Trek.
Yeah.
And as we know, didn't end up playing Kirk in Star Trek, but I guess that's maybe what put him on Abrams' radar in the first place. And then I saw his casting was actually a pretty last-minute decision.
Yeah, he was the last main character that was chosen. There are conflicting reports about where J.J. Abrams was exposed to him. I guess they also there was another show, Felicity, I think that he was on for a little bit, that Abrams liked his performance in that.
Okay.
So
my head canon is that Abrams is a really big Dawson's Creek fan.
He could be.
Yeah. And like they couldn't find like their first choice or whatever dropped out, or they didn't have any choices, or like who could play this role. So specific. We're like we don't know. We need the perfect type of juice and sauce and dust to coalesce, and that is the only actor who can play this part. And they sit around and it's like, fuck, what do we do? They stare at each other blankly for about 3 hours, and then Abrams slams his hand down on the table. He stands up and he's like, "Get me Pacey, God damn it!" And Kurtzman and Orth are like, "We don't know what that means. We have no idea what that means. We better figure it out, or he'll be mad."
Yeah, I mean, that's everyone knows that's how J.J. Abrams is. He says something very cryptic, and then he walks out the room, and everyone just kind of has to figure it out. And he's either very happy when they figure it out, or he's mad that they figured it out and tries to change it at the last minute.
It's a twist. He likes to mystery box the creative process.
Heck yeah. But so Joshua Jackson and John Noble, I would say, are the most well-known amongst the main cast. Lance Reddick as well, because of his time in Oz and The Wire and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Also,
now, if you're listening and you're like, who is this actor they're talking about? Lance Reddick? The John Wick movies. He's the concierge in the John Wick movies as well. I feel like a lot of people now know him for that.
Yes, he's that guy.
Yes, he is that guy.
But also, watch The Wire.
The Wire, yes. It's maybe sounds like an overly hyperbolic statement, but I still maintain, in my opinion, that is the best television show of all time.
I mean, but isn't Thundercats the best television show of all time?
I feel like if there was any real competition for The Wire, it'd be Thundercats. which, as we all know, is an even woker show.
Oh, it's hella woke. Actually, the greatest television show that's ever aired is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I've heard such amazing things about Avatar: The Last Airbender, and here goes Tauri writing it down so that we do a show about it at some point.
Yep.
Seeing how the sausage is made, kids. Every time I tell Tauri that I haven't seen something, he looks away from me. He breaks eye contact with a very pronounced expression, and then writes it down.
Don't make it seem like I'm one of those like classic LA like, oh, you haven't seen this? Your life is empty people.
Yeah. It's
more like, oh man, this saves me work in the future.
If you don't like this, you must be stupid.
Yeah. So basically, since we've only watched the pilot, or since I only made Lex watch the pilot, I'm going to do my best not to spoil anything from the subsequent 4 seasons.
Yes, so it's a 4-season show?
5 seasons.
5 seasons. So
Yeah.
here's my first question. Because I know they got canceled, right? Or did they end it? That's my question. Do they actually, if I committed to watching this entire series?
Yes.
Because the people that love Fringe.
Yes.
So if, hypothetically, I were to commit to watching this entire thing, do they actually end their story?
Yes, they were given they were like, all right, you are able to finish your story in this last season. You have this many episodes, and then they were able to really wrap everything up in a very satisfactory way.
Did people like it more than they liked the ending of Lost?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it was satisfactory, and
Right.
it built on their like mythos.
Right.
Whereas like I feel like Lost was like, here's your ending. We just it's a thing.
Matthew Fox turns to the camera and he's like, and now we are found. Credits.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I thought you didn't watch Lost.
Oh, I got
'cause that's-
spoiled for me and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
It's those zeitgeist shows. You can't help it.
Right.
Everyone's always talking about it. But yeah. So basically, the only thing I will be spoiling in general terms is the plot of the 2-hour pilot.
Yes.
Everything else I'll be speaking in more general terms and talking about more of the performances and the dynamics that build down the line. There might be like minor spoilers that like if you were to read a show summary, and by show summary, just like, hey, what is Fringe about? I would be essentially mirroring those things.
Sure.
But for the most part, I won't really be detailing any major plot points or anything to that effect. So there is no spoiler wall this time around, with the exception of the pilot, which, guys, watch. It's on Amazon. It's on, I think it's on iTunes. It's everywhere. Go on the internet. It'll tell you where it is. So, Lex, what did you think of the pilot?
I dug it.
Yeah?
Yes. That's why I asked you if I were to commit to watching more of this show, right? Because the pilot really worked for me. And yeah, the people who love Fringe are super, super into it. So I'm intrigued enough that if I can carve the time out somewhere, I liked it enough that I would be interested to keep going, at least midway into the first season, and see if I fall into a groove with it the way you hope you do with a new show.
Yeah.
But I dug it. I didn't know for the most part who was in it. I was vaguely aware that Lance Reddick was on the show, but I completely forgot until he showed up.
Right.
It was interesting to see Mark Valley play somewhat against it, because I'm used to seeing Mark Valley play a little bit more heroic. So it was interesting to see him, spoilers, subvert that and turn out to be one of the villains of the pilot. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
John Noble, great, wacky. Pacey's there.
Yeah. I mean, yes, he is kind of a exposition robot in the pilot episode. Like you get a few moments of like actual genuine human connection, but for the most part, he's like, hey, something scientific, or he like he's there a lot of the time to make simple the complicated things that John Noble says.
Right.
Which I like that as a mechanic.
He's crazy. He should be back in the institution. Because he's crazy.
Yeah.
Walter.
Yep, that's how he says it
how
every
he
time. It's a bold acting choice.
And he looks right into the camera, oddly. Doesn't look at John Noble, looks right into the camera, turns his head very slowly. Walter.
And every time a character points it out, so like they go, "Who is he talking to?" And another character just goes, "Daddy issues." It's super self-aware, the whole show. No. But yeah, I feel like it's such a solid pilot that it almost exists on its own. Like you could watch it as a pilot, but you could also watch it as its own movie. Like it has a mystery, it has a way of getting you from A to B to C to D. There's so many different twists and turns that occur throughout the pilot that you can almost never really guess where it's going.
Right.
Also, it's not afraid to be super weird, which I really like about it.
I like that it opens with people's faces melting off and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I guess this virus, right, what the virus does essentially like crystallizes your body, more or less. So like how when Mark Valley gets infected, when he's on the operating table, you kind of see through him and whatnot.
Yeah.
Right. But I like that his call them symptoms manifested that way, but on the plane in the beginning of the episode pilot, like homeboy's face is literally like collapsing down off of his head.
Yeah,
it was nuts. Like that's when I saw it, like because that's how it opens. That's basically this cold open of the show.
Yeah,
is this virus breaking loose on this flight, and I guess they crystallize but also liquefy because there were no bodies, just gunk everywhere on the plane when they went to investigate it. Fucked up. But as soon as I saw the dude's face falling off, I was like, I get why Tauri made me watch this.
Yeah. It's how do I explain that? It's very Cronenberg-like. And there were, like, in doing research, I realized that a lot of the people who work on the show were big Cronenberg fans. And
that
so,
tracks.
like, yeah. There's an episode down the line where they explore a different kind of virus, and it gets really body horror. Well, the whole show gets really body horror-y. There's another one on a plane where a person like turns into an animal. Like it's a lot of crazy stuff. The thing I really like about this show is that it, as you can imagine from the name, it takes a lot of fringe science, but it also tries to ground them in actual science, which I really like. It's not just that like, oh man, we're living in a crazy sci-fi world where things just are technologically advanced. It's like, no, like here is this idea of like a shared dream state. Like, let's say in Inception where two people are in the same dream.
Right.
So they find a way to do that in this show using practical methods. So they use LSD and acid to quote unquote open the mind.
Right. And they
then
throw her in like a sensory deprivation tank.
Right. And so like that would be the quote unquote practical way of inducing that ability. So they find ways to ground really fantastical ideas, which I really like. And also like the show itself is built completely around characters and their actions and the consequences of those actions.
Yeah.
And so there's no character that you meet in this pilot episode that you don't immediately get what their deal is.
Right.
And like sometimes they'll go so far as to like have someone be like, have someone explain it, where, for example, there's that moment when you have all this interaction between Lance Reddick and Olivia, played by Anna Torv, who's great.
Yes.
But you don't understand why he's being so mean to her. He keeps calling her liaison and sweeties and honeys. And then as she's going on her investigation, she talks about what their history is and how like they already know each other because she was working as a military investigator or a Marine investigator, and one of his buddies got like taken down by her due to like sexual harassment. Relevant. And so he has a grudge against her.
Right. Because yeah, the system tends to protect abusers and harassers.
Yeah.
Did you know? Did you come here? Come here, let me tell you. Come here, let me tell you something about how the system deals with these indiscretions.
Oh.
Nasty indiscretions. That's the new name of the podcast.
Ooh, yeah. I like it.
Hey guys, welcome back to Nasty Indiscretions. that's
I'm
you.
Lex Michael. I'm alone. But yeah, so like everyone in the show already has an somewhat established relationship, but also a perspective on the other people in the show.
Yes. And it all feels genuinely grounded in character. Something I'm really thinking about now is it's an episode where, I mean, it's feature length, but it feels like there's no unnecessary obfuscation, which is a big, people who want to ding J.J. Abrams for whatever it is, a lot of what they'll point to is their opinion that the mystery box thing is his top priority, right? And it's all about obfuscation and creating the air, the feeling of a mystery without necessarily having much there. So it's a ton of obfuscation in the name of what? Sometimes nothing. That's one of the big criticisms you hear. But looking at this pilot, there is really none of that. The only obfuscation there is really is what's going on with Mark Valley's character, but that's intentional, right? That's not obfuscation for its own sake. That's we need to set this character up one way so we can invert it. And the rest of it is just information that is gradually revealed to you in a way that I appreciated. None of it felt like I'm supposed to be on the hook for a greater mystery than there is. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm not necessarily supposed to be sitting there going, what is their mysterious relationship? Well, maybe I'll never know. No, could it be? And in the episode, the way they start to peel those layers back, and the way they do it in the pilot, instead of dragging out some of these threads the way he himself might in other stories, I appreciate it, right? Because like you say, this could function as its own fairly self-contained story. The way they leave off in the pilot, of course, there are so many different possible directions they can go.
Right.
But I like that it is relatively self-contained, so there would be plenty of opportunities to just over mystery box the thing as a self-contained narrative. And I appreciate the restraint, because they did not, in my opinion, they did not do that. Every mystery that was there for a functional narrative purpose instead of being there for its own sake.
Right.
It's a long route I took to get there, but we got there. It was scenic, right? Like, you look at those trees.
Yeah, all the wonderful, yummy trees.
I see all the trees. Can't see the forest super well, but I see the trees. They're very pretty.
Yeah. And I see the forest. It's just a lot of green. It looks like it looks like mold.
It's more trees. You know what I mean? Like it's a weird metaphor.
Yeah, totally.
The forest is just trees.
It's true,
isn't it?
Yeah.
And other assorted fauna.
Yeah.
Sure. Fucking whatever.
But yeah, so John Noble, the Walter Bishop character,
yes,
is probably one of my favorite characters on television.
Oh, okay.
The way that he grows, he's very complex. And something about this show is that, like, you get to see these characters really, the actors really get to stretch these characters and dig into all of the nuances about them. And so Walter is a character who, as you grow with the character, you see that he's very idiosyncratic. Mm-hmm. But you also, over time, come to find that he was at one point kind of a monster.
The way they establish him, of course, the way they talk him up before he's introduced on screen, but also in his first couple of scenes, there's a certain... You could see how quickly this dude could become very malevolent.
Yep.
Like, I assumed they were setting him up as a villain, and of course, by the end of the episode, he's pretty much on the team.
Right. I mean, yes, because he definitely can go either way. And I think that that's what makes him so complex. He's constantly trying to fight against who he used to be.
Right.
And he's quirky now because he's essentially gone mad inside of a mental institution for a number of years. I forget. I want to say 15. But as you find out more and more about the things that he's done and the lengths that he was willing to go when he was a quote unquote complete man, is how he would describe himself.
Right.
Not how like I view people who've been in mental institutions.
It's an important clarification.
It is. Because it's one very specific to the character. Because there's something happens in later seasons that you find out. And so he's a literal incomplete man.
Intriguing.
Yeah.
Now you're mystery boxing shit up.
But also, like, I think that he says it in the first episode or the pilot that, like, when you're in the institution, like, you lose yourself. You lose a piece of yourself, and it's nice to be reminded what it's like just to be a human being again.
Right.
But as he gets closer to being a human being, he has to struggle with who he is as a person. And I feel like since they were able to kind of explore that over the course of 5 seasons, you're able to get into the nuance of like what it means to be a bad person who's trying to be a good person.
Well, I feel like that's pretty relatable, right? I mean, not necessarily, I don't think everybody feels like they are or have been a bad person, but I do think plenty of people can relate to the idea of maybe not being your best self and having to work to combat your lesser impulses to try and be a better version of who you can be.
Yeah. And I also really like his trajectory as a father, because you really get how much the way he was affected his son, Joshua Jackson, to where like he's become this crazy nomad dude who just doesn't know how to sit still, which he doesn't realize is what his father, like the way he saw his father is what he had ultimately become. Right. He has the brain of his father, but like the runaway or none of the like anchors of family that kept him in one place.
Right. That's why he keeps turning to the camera and going, Walter. and John Noble's arc as a father is, I gotta get that kid to stop looking right into the camera.
Yep. It's hard though. And because when he's not doing that, he just keeps going quack, 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 quack. Yeah, Joshua Jackson, man, impressive actor. He makes very big choices.
Right, that's what makes him so compelling to watch.
Yeah, you know, despite whatever's written on the page, like he's gonna go for it. Oh man,
it's like we cast him to keep our sets lively.
But yeah, and so this kind of brings me to my thoughts about fringe science, Lex Michael.
Yeah.
You know, if there were any fringe ideas, what would you want to explore a little bit more?
Well, what do you mean?
Like fringe science, you know, like telekinesis or teleportation or thought sharing, mind reading. Ooh, baby. What else we got? Invisibility.
I would be too nervous to fuck with teleportation because I saw how that worked out for Seth Brundle. It was no good. He became a fly monster.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so that I think teleportation's out. Although if somebody else wants to get on teleportation, I will jump in after the first 5 years or so once they work the kinks out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be no mutated lumpy fly monster.
Gotcha.
Let's see, what else? Telekinesis. I feel like eventually, the way things are going and how we have less and less and less privacy all the time, eventually, right, we're just going to be able to read each other's thoughts.
Well,
technically,
he's pushing his glasses up. Here we go.
Telekinesis is the ability to move things with your mind, whereas telepathy is the ability to read minds. So maybe you should go back to school.
This is upsetting. No, yes, I do know that. I was jumping to the other.
Got it.
There's an episode of Star Trek where Shatner pronounces it telekinesis, and I can't tell if he's joking or not.
He's doing it to be facetious.
Facetious.
Yes. Fascus.
There we go.
Fascus.
We nailed it.
Speaking of William Shatner.
Yes. Does he show up on Fringe?
No, but his good buddy Leonard Nimoy does.
I was vaguely aware of that.
Yeah. Which is it's nice. Like cuz I think by the time that the show had started, Leonard Nimoy was pretty retired from acting, and he instead was like, "You know what? I will come out and do this thing." And he has a bunch of appearances throughout the series, and I think every time they were surprised that he would do it, cuz he's like, "I'm not acting anymore. Eat my butt." But then that led to him also doing other acting stuff.
Right. Was this before or after Star Trek?
Um,
The J.J. Abrams movie, not the original series. Clearly, this was after the original
this
series.
was way before the original series.
Fringe is a 1950s program.
I believe, I don't remember when the original Star Trek came out, or not the original, but Star Trek the movie. This started in 2008. I want to say that Star Trek was 2011, but I cannot confirm nor deny. I wish there was some kind of interconnected network that would allow me to find information instantly.
It's 2009.
2009?
It's the next year. But,
Oh.
But when does Leonard Nimoy show up in the first season? Because if not, they were probably in production on Star Trek around that time.
Right.
So then it's possible they worked together on Star Trek, and then Leonard Nimoy was like, "Yes, JJ, I will do your series."
Yeah, I assume that that's exactly what happened.
Yes.
He was like, "Yo, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to make it so that your character, Spock, is going to be having all the sex by the end of my movie." And he's like, "Well, what can I do in exchange for this great boon you've provided?" And he's like, just show up in my new movie or my new series. I'm only going to write the pilot, and then I'm going to just keep my name on it and do other stuff. But it'll be real tight. My friends Kurtzman and Orsi are big fans. They love magical blood. And he's like, "I have magical blood." And then they're like, "Oh, man.
Why
See,
is he
it's perfect."
Dracula all of a sudden?
What?
Why is he Dracula all of
No,
a
that's
sudden?
just how Leonard Nimoy
I
talks.
have magical blood.
Yes. Have you never heard Leonard Nimoy before? Is this your first time? Because that's exactly how he sounds. He's like, "I played Spock one time. Over the course of many years, I became Spock. I was once lost, and they had to search for me, Spock. And then I did Kingdom Hearts later."
It feels like you're sliding into Bane a little bit.
I don't know what you mean. So are you saying that Bane was doing a Leonard Nimoy impression? That's what I'm hearing.
Captain,
Anyway.
I'm wondering why someone would shoot a man with a phaser before throwing him out of the airlock. Theatricality and deception. That's what he sounds like.
It's true.
I've definitely seen all of these IPs, for sure.
Totally.
I've definitely familiarized myself with the intricacies of these characters.
Yes, indeed. I agree. But another character that I really like.
This show has Pacey on it.
The character who you mostly see her in the background, but Astrid.
Yes. This assistant character.
Yeah. She, I feel like, is the heart of the team.
All right.
She's really sweet. She ultimately becomes a companion character to Walter, because like we spend so much time in the lab, which they originally were thinking of calling their show The Lab, because Walter's lab is like the home base of the whole show.
Because there is a lab.
Yeah.
I think they made the right choice. I think Fringe is definitely a title that pops a little more.
Yes, I agree. But she hangs out with him a lot, and I think that like really helps ground the character when you're not dealing with daddy issues with Joshua
Right.
Jackson and not doing cases with Olivia.
Right.
She is able to really grow as well, which I really like.
Yeah, didn't have a ton to do in the pilot.
Yeah. But she eventually does a lot.
I liked her when
all
she was
the
there.
characters do a lot.
She watches SpongeBob with them.
Yeah. I mean, because who wouldn't want to live in a pineapple under the sea?
I can't breathe water, so me.
Well, learn.
Grow those gills you've been talking about.
Yeah, seriously.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is the ratio of, let's call them mythology episodes to Case of the Week episodes?
Okay, that's a good question, because that was on one of my next thingies. Essentially, the show starts, I would say the first season is like a standard procedural, but you also have underlying mythology.
Right.
So every episode is in the first season. Every episode is a procedural where they're doing a case of the week. And then I think by episode 4, you start to get a hint of the bigger picture.
Okay.
And you already get a little bit of it when they mention the pattern, which is ultimately the I guess I would describe it as the overarching plot line in season 1.
Okay.
And then once you get into season 2, basically the procedural aspect starts to drop away and you start getting deeper and deeper into the mythology. They started doing the procedural. They started it as a procedural because that was what was hot at the time. People
Right.
were like, oh shit, people love procedurals and they want to be able to watch it without having to do it week to week. Because this was really before, like, or when we were just starting to get into like streaming media. Like 2008 was the same year that Hulu started, or the year after Hulu started. So if you missed a show, like let's say you were trying to watch Lost and you missed an episode, you'd be like, I don't know what's happening. There's a bear and no one's explaining anything to me.
Wait, there's a bear?
So I hear. But so that was one of the lessons that they took from Lost being so serialized, is that you find it easier to get lost. Yeah, you get it. And so they wanted it to be as procedural as possible, at least for the first couple seasons, because they didn't want people to start dropping off if they missed episodes.
Right.
But as they go further, they start really building out the mythology, especially because they had at least 6 or 7 seasons of material to kind of play with in their series map. And so as they get to the second season, they really start leaning into the mythology of what's happening. By the third season, like there are a few, I guess, procedural-esque things, but like I think by season 3, it's all in on mythology. Season 4, they get a little bit back to some procedural stuff because of where they end with season 3. And then season 5 is all mythology.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of the breakdown of the show.
All right.
Because of certain circumstances, like seasons 1 through 3 all are like building off of one another and really like just doing as much world building as possible while having like case of the weeks here and there.
Yeah.
Seasons 4 and 5, I feel like they were allowed to kind of dance around a little bit more and splash in their waters.
Okay.
Especially because they had so much that was already established and built up.
Right.
Especially for season 5, which like they were just allowed to kind of do whatever they wanted because it was their last season. And so they were like, all right, guess we're doing this now.
Right.
Which is great. Does that answer your question? Do you feel satisfied?
I do. I feel like I got the information I needed. I'm generally more of a serialized TV show person than a procedural case of the week person, because at a certain point on a long enough timeline, I start to feel like I'm just watching the same procedure over and over and over with slightly different window dressing and stuff.
Yeah.
Occasionally, you'll get something really great. Like they'll subvert your expectations in a way that like, oh wow, this case of the week episode really pops.
Yeah.
But for every one of those, there's like 5. Okay, same procedure. These actors are very good at what they do. But
Yeah.
same thing.
Well, I mean, I would say that even the procedural episodes of Fringe, just to keep selling it to you, even the procedural episodes, I think that they provide, because again, it is trying to take really interesting sci-fi concepts and ground them. I think that it keeps you guessing in terms of like what's happening and how we got to point A or to point B from point A. That's how numbers and letters work sequentially. So I think even when it's procedural, it's enough because they're also really steeped in character building. And so like, yes, you have like your case of the week, but also it's like, what's happening with Walter and Peter this week? Hey, is Olivia going through something because of her ex-boyfriend's stuff?
Right. So
Oh.
stuff. So they're weaving in continuity even throughout the case of the week episodes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. I can work with that.
Yes, you got dang better because that's how it is. You can't change it.
Right.
Not even with a petition.
It's a decade old show.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I realized what year it was, and I was like, oh man, I'm old.
Yeah.
I'm so old.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. Time marches on. It's cruel to all of us.
Is it? Is it really though? What if I could develop a way to stop aging? What kind of science would I need in order for an anti-aging solution to be relevant and accessible in my life? What kind of science would this be?
I'm not helping you.
What kind of? Come on.
Just keep digging.
I'm trying to get into some fringe science.
Just keep digging.
Ooh, what would I need? Ooh, I could try to find the fountain of youth.
I'll
but
hand
maybe...
you another shovel, but I'm not getting down in this
Come on, get down with me.
No.
Oh boy. What about cells? What do you know about cells? Well, you see, they start to degrade over time.
All right, give me my shovel back. I'm burying you in this hole. I'm just covering the hole
come
up.
on, have fun.
I'm filling it with
why
concrete.
do you hate fun?
There's a parking lot here now.
Fine. I'll just continue to talk about stuff then.
And everybody
Oh,
thinks the
boy.
parking lot is haunted, but it's really just you perfectly fine in this little hole just talking about fringe science.
Fringe science is cool.
Just making sandwiches down there and shit. No one knows where you got sandwich supplies from, but you got them. You're fine.
I used the fringe science to make it. I was like, ooh, why don't I make a conjuration potion? Because I'm an apothecary.
What?
Yeah. Apothecaries do science, right? I mean, what is magic but just super advanced science?
Science we don't understand.
Yeah, your primitive human brains will never understand my magic science.
A precursor to science fact.
Ho, ho, ho. He. Ha,
All right, that's enough of that.
ha.
I'm pulling the plug on this.
Why? I feel like we're having loads of fun. But another thing I wanted to talk about was just the visual stylings of this show. I feel like it's super well edited and super well shot. Like for example, there was just like all the translucent skin effects and
That
things
was really
of that sort.
that was a cool effect.
Yeah. And I know that it's like there's all their effects are usually a combination of like practical and CG. There's an episode later where there is a big giant worm involved, and so they had to like there's a CG version of the worm, but there's also like a really cool like practical worm that they use. Like there's some like behind the scenes you can watch that like show how they did all the worm stuff, and it's gross and it's nice.
Okay.
But I really like it carries and only like grows as you go through the series because they get a bigger budget.
Yeah.
But I really like the stylings of the show. Like even for example in the pilot when after Agent Scott gets better, he still has all the like gross veins on his face.
Yeah.
Like I really like that aesthetic as well. I feel like this is one of those shows where it became a really big passion project, and I think that's why people like it so much. Is that like there's a lot of devotion and attention to detail that goes into it, or that went into it, because it's not live anymore.
Right.
That went into it, that I think that it is an example of everyone working at the height of their abilities in order to make something come together that works on all levels.
Right. And there are a lot of instances where you'll make a pilot and its primary function is as a sales tool and not necessarily as a story tool. But there's nothing that feels hollow or we're just trying to sell you on something for the sake of selling you on something. It really feels like they actually put together a really well-functioning story unit, and I feel like that's the biggest reason why I'm genuinely curious to see where they take this story, is because it feels like they actually did put, trite way to put it maybe, but they put a lot of heart and soul into this pilot. You can feel it. Like I feel like you can often feel when you're watching a movie or a TV show when everybody genuinely cared about it.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just projecting stuff onto this pilot that's not actually there. Maybe maybe they were all miserable to be there. But it feels like there's heart there, and there's passion there, and there's commitment there that only comes with both.
Yeah. You're right. And they loved it. You watch all the BTS stuff, they love it. They make all these special episodes too, also love it. I mean, the show, I would say that, like, I think in the third, maybe fourth season, there are a couple like dropped threads. So like if you're one of those people who are like, everything must be perfect, eat a butt. But like there are a lot of really cool sequences. There's like an animated episode. Like I feel like at a certain point they were like, all right, every 9th episode of every season is going to be a special episode.
Like Fringe talks about gun violence.
No, more like one's a musical episode, one's an all animated episode. One is just like a psychedelic. Like I think it's the literal name of the episode is like the chemical compound for LSD, and it gets real psychedelic. So stuff like that where you get to dive in and they get to do just more weird stuff. And I really like those episodes too. It shows that the makers were able to have a lot of fun, in addition to all the stuff that John Noble does. So yeah, do you have any other thoughts about this this fine pilot series?
There is a decent chance, I don't know how soon it's going to be, but there is a decent chance that I will continue to watch this show because I thought this was a very good pilot.
Yeah. I recommend it. I think you should. I mean, another reason why I suggested this show is because, as we talked about a little bit yesterday, Game of Thrones, they had their finale and they were given a certain amount of time to wrap it up. And I feel like there was a little bit of dropped ball, so conversely, I wanted to share a show that managed to make use of everything that they had laid the seeds for and made the best use of the time that they had left. Like they were surprised they were given a certain amount of time. Like they weren't officially canceled, but they were basically
right. Like this is going to be your last season.
Right. And I love what they did with it. Like they could have just, had a continuation of what they were doing before, and you could have hung out with Walter and the cow and all that stuff. But instead, they decided to have what I would deem as a very ambitious final season. You start the season with people that you don't know, and you unravel how we got there as the season premiere goes on, which again, super ambitious, super crazy.
Yeah.
And they managed to expand the world in a way that like most people don't in their last season. Usually in your last season, there may be a tendency to like play it safe, or there may be a tendency to try to be more fan servicey to your audience to just be like, all right, well, now I'm going to give you all the good feels since this is our last season. But this one was like, no, we're going to try to make a more complex story, and we're going to build on the themes that we had previously established. And we're going to show you how much people can change or what happens if they don't.
All right.
So I really like the trajectory of the show as a whole. I mean, again, first season, very procedurally, very procedural. That's how that sentence works. But like, as they keep building out the mythology, you'll see how the grand plan lays out.
Are these full 20-something episode seasons?
I don't remember.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I don't think they are. I feel like they are a little shorter than 13, or a little shorter than 20 episodes. I would have to check some interconnected network that I wish existed. I don't know how shows work, but there are, I guess 20 episodes per season, except for the last season.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
All right. I'll make the commitment.
Do it. It's only 5 seasons. Come on. Do it. Don't be a coward.
So there's 100 episodes?
Yeah, I think so.
That's a nice round number.
Yeah. Don't be a coward. Don't fucking bitch out on me. Yep, that's it. Do you feel thoroughly antagonized? How antagonized do you feel? Scale of 1 to 10.
4.
Oh.
Fuck you!
Yeah. Your face is dumb, and the only way to make it smarter is to watch Fringe. Do you feel all right? 1 to 10 again.
Pretty compelling argument. I
Yeah.
would put it that way.
Good. Because you got to be thoroughly antagonized. But I mean, yeah, I feel like I've said my piece. I feel like if you haven't watched it by now, guys, get on it. It's one of the best shows that has aired on TV. It's also a sci-fi show that Fox allowed to exist beyond 1 season.
That happens very rarely.
It is very rare. I think if it wasn't a bad robot production, it probably would have been prematurely canceled.
Right, like with the exception of X-Files, right?
Yep.
How many others have there been?
I mean, do you qualify Lost as a sci-fi show?
Not having seen it, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. So yeah, X-Files.
Wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't understand why they hate. Well, I guess technically, if you count The Orville, by Seth MacFarlane, then
Sorry, it was sci-fi comedy.
yeah,
I suppose.
So that went longer. I mean, I assume because it's part of some special deal that Fox has with Seth MacFarlane as well.
Right.
Because he does all his shows with them, and they give him lots of money.
Right.
So that one, I mean, I feel like there are all these shows that they aired that I would love new seasons for. Like, I was such a fan of Minority Report.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that did that run longer
just
than a season?
1 season.
Okay.
And then I don't remember if Being Human was a Fox show. I feel like it was, because it was definitely canceled after 1 season. Or is it Being Human or Almost Human? Almost Human. The one with Bones from the new
David Boreanaz?
No, not that Bones from Star Trek.
Oh,
Keith Urban.
yes, it's Keith
Carl Urban.
Yeah.
Keith Urban, the singer, as anyways, but that one I would love more seasons for. It was very good. I mean, everyone loved Sarah Connor Chronicles.
You know what? I remember watching Sarah Connor Chronicles, and I kind of dug it.
Yeah, canceled.
Yep, it was. It
Firefly,
was
canceled.
very canceled.
Fox, give your sci-fi shows a chance. Just like give them at least 2 seasons. That's all I ask. If you can give the Orville more than 1 season, you can give every other sci-fi show more than 1 season. No, I'm not digging on the Orville. I mean, it's fine. It's like if Seth MacFarlane wrote Star Trek, which is take that however you'd like. But being or Almost Human was so good. Minority Report was so good. Like, give these shows a chance. I'm begging you, Fox. I want it. I need it. I'm just saying. You don't know what you don't know what you've lost. That was it.
Okay.
But I'm glad that they didn't cancel Fringe after one season because it is great.
Yeah, a lot of people share that sentiment.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I felt like I was the only one of my friends watching it. But
Were you watching it as it was airing?
yeah,
Okay.
like I was watching it from day one. Just because like the idea was really intriguing to me. And because I'm a big fan of practical sci-fi. Also, like everyone was like, "Oh man, it's like Fringe science version of X-Files," which is what it basically is.
I mean, arguably, X-Files is the Fringe science version of X-Files, but I see your point.
Right. I mean, X-Files is like aliens, but this one's like
X-Files is sort of like everything. It's like aliens, ghosts, demons, weird incest cannibal family, psychics.
oh, I've never watched a single episode.
Oh.
Well, I may have watched a single episode.
There is a lot of X-Files to watch.
Yes.
There's a massive range of quality because the thing ran for 9 seasons initially.
Yeah.
Some of the individual episodes of X-Files, for me, in my opinion, rank among the best episodes of television of all time.
Okay.
And there are a couple, maybe I'll like select 2 or 3 that are relatively standalone that I can throw at you.
Yeah, I mean that'd be cool. I have a vague I guess I have a vague relationship with the X-Files in that like it's been referenced in popular media for many years.
Yeah.
Like even the show Reboot, which was an animated show that I was super into, had 2 characters based on Mulder and Scully. It was too scary for me.
X-Files was?
Yes, X-Files was too scary. As anyone who's ever listened to the show knows, I was a very weak baby boy.
Uh-huh.
And so like I couldn't watch it. But and maybe it was just the episode I saw, but it was scary.
I mean, some of them get a little bit intense.
Yeah. And so I never really got into it because of how scary it was.
Right.
But everyone is always talking about how good it is.
Oh, it's one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
But again, like it's not, there's a range of quality as there would be if the thing runs for 9 seasons, 2 feature films, and 2 revival seasons.
Right. So what you're saying is that since Fringe was good from beginning to end, it's a better show than the X-Files? That's what all right, you heard it here first.
That's the soundbite.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Fringe is a greater show than X-Files. Lex Michael.
I mean, not for nothing, though. How many shows are there that remain truly great for longer than 5 seasons? They exist, but there aren't many.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if you squish together the Avatar: The Last Bender and Legend of Korra, that show. If you consider them one single solitary show, that show.
All right.
Hell yeah. Avatar: The Last Airbender, best show on television. Legend of Korra, better follow-up. Well, it's just as good.
All right.
Yeah. Equal quality.
For the time being, I will take your word for it.
Well, you won't have to wait too long because it's coming soon. It's coming at you.
Great.
Oh, man.
Bend some air.
All right. So that's what we thought about Fringe. Guys, if you have a chance to check it out, as we said, it's on streaming platforms. I watched it on Amazon. I'm sure that Lex also watched it on Amazon.
I did.
So yeah, check it out, guys. You can watch it with ads, or you can watch it without ads if you rent it, whatever. But yeah, let us know what you thought. at Missing Outcast, MISSINGOUTCAST. Or you could hit us up on our personal social media. Lex, where can they find you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at the Lex Michael.
And I'm at Tauri J, TAURIJAY. Don't you join us next week? Yeah. But until then, this has been the retrospective that's introspective.
And now you have a new perspective.